Let us continue our discussion on adiabatic reactors, and just to recap, let us write down the energy balances for two types of reactors and we will take forward from there. So, if we have let us say a stirred tank reactor. So, for a stirred tank reactor, we have the energy balance which looks something like this. Remember, our reaction is, there are large number of reactions, let us say in number of species Aj, J going from 1, 2 up to n, and we have a reaction summation nu ij Aj equal to 0, where this is my ith reaction. So, I can go from 1, 2 up to let us say independent reaction R. So, we have all these species, we have these reactions taking place between these species, and if we consider ideal reactor, stirred tank reactor, the energy balance boils down to this summation Nj Cpj. So, this is my energy accumulation term. Nj is the moles of species J, Cpj is the specific heat. We had derived this equation in earlier classes. So, this is equal to summation Fj 0 Fj 0 is the molar flow rate of species coming inside. So, we are considering a general stirred tank reactor with a continuous operation, and Hj is the enthalpy, subscript O denoting the entry point and E denoting the exit point. So, the accumulation is a result of the energy difference between the stream coming in and going out, plus there are reactions taking place, and each reaction has a heat of reaction delta I. The reaction is taking place at a rate Ri, and sum over all these reactions I will be the total energy that is generated in the system. So, that is a contribution of reaction plus whatever energy we are adding to the system. So, Q, for example, we can also write as AKU into TR minus T, where AK is the area for heat transfer, U is the overall coefficient of heat transfer, TR is the temperature of the coolant or the heating media that is in the jacket or which is transferring heat, adding heat, and T is the temperature. So, this is the energy balance for stirred tank reactor. We can also write energy balance for a plug flow reactor in a very similar manner as summation Cj Cpj into, I am writing an unsteady state balance plus is equal to Q, where Q in this tubular reactor, for example, if you have a tubular reactor, we can write as, where U is again the heat transfer coefficient, dt is the diameter of the tube, Tr again is the temperature of the media which is cooling or heating the reactants, and T is the temperature inside. So, essentially in both these cases the idea is accumulation, for example, is a result of convective heat transfer, the heat generated in the reaction, and heat which is externally added to the system. A similar terms in the plug flow reactor, the accumulation term, the convective energy transport, the generation term, and the heat addition term. So, these are our general energy balances, and now let us look at a simple reaction that is single reaction in an adiabatic reactor. Now, if you have an adiabatic reactor, what will happen? We are not adding or removing any heat. So, Q terms will be 0 and the remaining appropriate terms will remain. So, let us consider a reaction A1 going to A2, and let us say that it is occurring in a stirred tank reactor. C0 and T0 are my inlet concentration and temperature, C1 and T is my exit concentration and temperature, and we will consider a steady state balance. So, accumulation is not there, is equal to 0. So, we are considering steady state balance. So, we will put this term to 0 and adiabatic operation this term to 0, and then we will consider both mass and energy balances, and we can write C10 minus C1 as equal to tau into R. What is tau? Tau is our volume divided by the volumetric flow rate or the residence time. Okay, so, this is our mass balance, and now if we assume that the property that is in this energy balance, we will write Hj enthalpy as Cp into T temperature terms, and we will assume those properties are constant and define the mixture property. Then we can write energy balance, simplify that energy balance as minus delta H by rho Cp into tau into R. So, essentially what we have done is we have considered a single reaction. We have written the enthalpy of the mixture in terms of its density and specific heat of the mixture rather than considering individual component, and then if you rearrange we will get this kind of term. Now, this is our energy balance, this is our mass balance, and if we assume all properties such as Cp, rho, R constant, we get this particular balance, and let us try to simplify this further. So, what we will now do is combine this mass and energy balance, because we see this tau R term which is common. So, we can write delta H by rho Cp into C10 minus C1, that is instead of tau R, we will write it as C10 minus C1, which I can further simplify as minus delta H into C10 by rho Cp into 1 minus C1 by C10, okay, or C10 minus C1 by C10, which according to our definition of conversion is nothing but the conversion. So, I am going to now write this energy balance as T minus T0, as I am going to define this quantity as 1 over lambda and write this as into x, that is our conversion. What is lambda? Our lambda, as we have defined, is rho Cp divided by minus delta H into C10. Okay. So, this is our relationship between temperature and conversion for an adiabatic reactor, for a single reaction taking place in an adiabatic reactor. What does this relationship tell us? It tells us that temperature and conversion are linearly related through this constant 1 over lambda. There are certain assumptions that we have made, namely the properties of such as Cp, rho, delta H are not temperature dependent, they are constant. We are defining these properties for a mixture, but under these simplifying conditions, if they are satisfied, and a reasonable assumption to do, at least to illustrate certain important features of adiabatic operations. So, we get this for stirred tank reactor. Okay. Let us try to do the same thing for a plug flow reactor or a tubular reactor. Now, for tubular reactor, same reaction, we have mass balance equation which looks U dC1 dz. Again I am doing a steady state balance, no dispersion or dispersive flow, because we are looking at ideal reactor operation, and similarly we can therefore write the energy balance just as we wrote mass balance as minus delta H rho Cp R of C1 and T. That is, what essentially we are doing is we are now simplifying this plug flow energy balance for adiabatic operation. So, Q is 0, steady state operation. So, delta T dou T of T temperature is 0, and we are just rearranging these terms. Only instead of writing it as individual properties of the mixture, we are defining properties of the mixture, namely Cp, rho and so on. So, we get this kind of mass balance. So, we have our mass balance, we have our energy balance, and now we can once again combine this and say dt by dC1 from this particular relationship is nothing but delta H by rho Cp, which I can integrate, saying that at the inlet C1 is C10, T is T0. So, I can integrate this and write T minus T0 as minus delta H rho Cp into C minus C1 minus C10, and once again I can write the same relationship as I think this should be plus. So, here, so I can once again write T minus T0 as 1 over lambda into x, by recognizing that x is C10 minus C1 by C10 and lambda is rho Cp by minus delta H into C10. So, this is my relationship for plug flow reactor. So, what is happening in the plug flow reactor? Also once again temperature and conversion are linearly related to each other, essentially temperature and concentration, but we can write it as temperature and conversion. This is for plug flow reactor. Few minutes back we defined the same relationship for a stirred tank reactor, and we saw that for a stirred tank reactor also same relationship applies. But one thing that we have to remember, even though the relationship is same, that is temperature and conversion are linearly related, there are two different ways in which this is happening. In a stirred tank reactor, the temperature inside the reactor as well as in the exit is constant, and so is the concentration, and therefore, this is a single value relationship, whereas for tubular reactor or plug flow reactor, conversion is changing along the length of the reactor. So, x is changing along the length of the reactor, and so is the temperature, but the way temperature and conversion are related remains same. That is, the relationship is same, but these are two different meanings or interpretations of what is happening in the reactor. So, now what what this, how does this help us? Remember, if we look at for example CSTR, we have our balance which is C1 and T, but we also know T is related to the concentration or conversion, or I can write this as C10 minus C1 by C10, or in other words I can write temperature both in case of stirred tank reactor and plug flow reactor in terms of concentration alone, and thereby now my mass balance equation is simply R of C1, because I can eliminate temperature in terms of C1. It is not a simple relationship, but nonetheless we have a single relationship that suffices to account for both mass and energy balances. Why is that possible? That is possible because we have mass balance and we have combined mass and energy balance, and therefore we can eliminate concentration in terms of temperature, or temperature in terms of concentration. So, now let us try to look at what happens in a reactor, in a stirred tank reactor as well as plug flow reactor when we have adiabatic operation, and this is what is shown in this particular figure over here. When we have non-isothermal reactor in a stirred tank operation. So, what we have done over here is we have once again consider a single reaction and put in some values of and we have our energy mass balance which is in terms of R of C1, which we just now saw. Let us assume that the reaction is simply first order reaction, but remember our K is dependent on temperature and temperature is dependent on conversion or concentration, and therefore this relationship is not a linear relationship anymore, and we have a non-linear relationship. So, let us look at what happens when we try to change the residence time tau. So, that is what is plotted on the x axis, and how does the concentration as well as temperature vary in the reactor. There are some numbers that I have taken for this illustration. For example, C10 is taken as 2 and so on. So, all these K naught, E, there are some values assigned to it, but these values are not that important, but the behavior of the reactor that is important. So, what do we see? When the residence time is low or short, for shorter residence time you expect that there will be very little reaction, and therefore, concentration C1 is very close to the inlet concentration. As we increase the residence time, more and more reaction takes place, and therefore, concentration decreases. However, this decrease in concentration is not monotonic. In fact, the concentration behavior is of this kind. Now, since our concentration is changing in this particular manner, we can write temperature, because temperature is related to concentration, and therefore, temperature, for example, inlet temperature T naught, I have taken it as 300. So, when there is very little reaction, temperature in the exit is close to temperature at the inlet, but as we increase the residence time, we have more and more increase in temperature, because reaction is taking place. Remember, here we have exothermic reaction in mind when we are looking at this particular reaction. So, now what happens? Suppose if I have a residence time which is unity. So, at this residence time I have 3 possible values of concentration, number 1, number 2 and number 3. This behavior once again is similar to what we saw in a non-isothermal catalyst reactor behavior, that is multiplicity of steady state. What is this multiplicity of steady state? That is, for the same residence time under exactly identical operating conditions, I have 3 different possible values of steady state concentration and therefore, the temperature as well, 1, 2 and 3. What are their characteristics? 1 for example, or let us start with 3. Number 3 for example, the inlet concentration and the reactor exit concentration are almost close to each other, that means hardly any reaction has taken place. In case of 1, the exit concentration is significantly lower compared to inlet concentration. So, lot of reaction has taken place. The similar behavior can be seen in the case of temperature also. Number 1, so this is my actually number corresponding to number 3, 2, 1. So, concentration difference very high at number 1, that means conversion is very high. So, temperature is also significantly different than the inlet temperature. Number 2 is intermediate, but as we had seen previously and we will see little later on that this steady state is very difficult to achieve without any controller, that is inherently unstable. So, we will talk about the stability of the reactor and then at that point of time we will once again visit this number 1, 2, 3 steady state and see what happens. Okay. Now, let us go back, let us look at what happens when we have plug flow reactor, and for some reason my diagram is missing, but let me just plot it. The same concentration versus residence time. For the same values of these parameters that we had considered, we get a behavior which looks something like this. Although I do not have exact numbers over here, but we have reaction occurring very rapidly. So, this is for adiabatic operation and this is what will happen for steady state or isothermal operation. Okay. What we are looking at over here is a behavior where, suppose as we said that earlier, we said that we had taken this inlet concentration as 2 and the temperature was inlet temperature was 300. Suppose if I carry out a reaction in an isothermal manner by maintaining the temperature at the same value as 300, this is what behavior I will get. That is, to achieve any appreciable conversion, I have to wait for a long time. Whereas, the same behavior in an adiabatic reactor is completely different. In fact, the behavior is very similar at the starting point because conditions are same. But what happens in a adiabatic process? In an adiabatic process, as our conversion increases or concentration decreases, in an exothermic reaction temperature increases. Now, what happens as temperature increases? Remember, this is our rate So, our concentration is decreasing, but our temperature is increasing. Increase in temperature, exponential term with negative E by RT, this term increases and rate of reaction increases, and therefore, the concentration decrease is now much rapid as compared to when temperature was constant. How rapid is this temperature effect? If you look at the behavior over here, the slope is almost infinity. Why is that? Because temperature, the rate is highly sensitive to temperature increases. Remember, we talked about it in our first or second class, that is, even a 10-degree temperature can almost double the rate of reaction. So, as the temperature increases, the rate increases. As rate increases, concentration decreases. Decrease in concentration further increases the temperature, leading to almost a runaway reaction, that is, the consumption of the reactant is almost infinitely fast if this reaction is to take place in an adiabatic reaction. Now, you will start appreciating what I had said some time back, that why is adiabatic operation important. Remember, here this is almost like an uncontrolled reaction, because the slope is almost infinity. So, you do not know what will happen if such situations arise, and therefore, knowledge of adiabatic operation is important. Eventually, the rate will go to 0 because all reactant has got consumed, but before that the reaction just accelerates to a very large value, and we do not know what other effects, side effects, if at all, such behavior may have. So, let us try to look at what is happening in this particular scenario. Also, although I do not have numbers here, but also it so happens that for the same residence time, the conversion in a CSTR now is much better than conversion in a plug flow reactor. Remember, for an isothermal reactor, CSTR always perform poor compared to plug flow reactor, because we saw the reason for that. In a plug flow reactor, concentration decreases from the entry point to the exit point in a gradual manner. So, the rate of reaction also decreases in a gradual manner, and therefore, compared to CSTR. In CSTR, entry to exit drop in concentration is almost instantaneous. Therefore, the reaction rates are very low, whereas in a plug flow reactor, the gradual decrease in reaction rate. So, in general, reaction rates are higher than CSTR, and therefore, we have a higher rate of reaction in the plug flow reactor. So, better conversions. However, so this is what happens for non-isothermal for isothermal reactor. For non-isothermal reactor, the conversion in a CSTR is actually better than the plug flow reactor for non-isothermal. For isothermal, it is other way around. So, let us try to look at why is this happening. So, let us try to go back to the rate which is exponential E by RT into C, and my temperature is related to conversion. So, what happens to the rate as a function of concentration, because we eventually last time a few minutes back we wrote this whole thing as a function of concentration. So, what happens to the rate as a function of concentration? Now, if you look at the rate, there are two important effects. I am not writing the K naught constant. So, as C increases, or let us say as C increases, this term will increase, but this term will decrease. Why? Because higher the value of C, or if C is close to C naught, X is low, so temperature is low. So what happens is the rate versus concentration plot actually looks now something like this. Why this behavior? Because if concentration is low, the rate is low, because it is linearly proportional. If concentration is high, remember concentration and temperature are related to each other. So, concentration for example is close to C10, that is high, temperature is close to inlet temperature, which is a low value. So, e raised to minus E by RT is a low value, and therefore, the product is also low. So, at both low concentrations and high concentration, the rate is low, passing through a maxima as concentration is increased. So, as concentration is increased, both these will have counter balancing each other and will pass through maximum. So, what does it mean in terms of plot of 1 over rate versus C10 minus C1? So, when C1 is close to C10, so let us say this is my C10, the rate is at a high value. When C1 is close to 0, or the rate is also a low value, so 1 over R is high, and this is what gives me my reaction rate, 1 over R versus 1 over C. Now, if you recall, we talked about design equations for plug flow reactor and stirred tank reactor. The design equations are still the same, because we have now written what is for stirred tank reactor. C10 minus C1 is tau into R, or residence time is C10 minus C1 by R, and for plug flow reactor it is integral dC by R from C1 to C10, which is my residence time, or in other words, graphically, for plug flow reactor residence time is area under the curve, for stirred tank reactor it is the area of the rectangle. So, let us look at what happens, and we talked about how we can relate it to 1 over rate versus C10 minus C1 plot. So, what happens, for example, my C1 is a small value, okay. So, somewhere over here, the blue rectangular area is the conversion that we will get, or that is the residence time that is required to achieve that conversion. So, this is my CSTR, tau CSTR, and what will be the area for plug flow reactor? It will be the area under this 1 over R versus C10 minus C1 curve. So, this entire area, which certainly is much greater than that for a stirred tank reactor, or in other words, for a non-isothermal reactor, adiabatic reactor, the residence time required in a stirred tank reactor to achieve certain conversion is much smaller than the residence time required in a plug flow reactor. So, this is different from isothermal reactor. So, in fact, what we have made use of in an adiabatic reactor, since temperature increases for exothermic reaction, that increase in temperature results in increasing of rates, and therefore, the residence time is smaller for CSTR. For the same reason, in a CSTR, increase in temperature will be instantaneous. So, the reaction rate will go to a high value almost instantaneously, whereas in a plug flow reactor, the increase in temperature will be gradual. So, increase in rate also will be gradual. So, as a result, stirred tank reactor, the residence time will be much shorter than the plug flow reactor. Now, let us try to look at what happens when we have a reversible reactions. Okay, that is, what is the behavior for a reversible reaction again in an isothermal or non-isothermal situation. So, our energy balances are same as before, but we have to now remember that we are looking at a reversible reaction, or in other words, let us say our reaction is A1 going to A2. Okay. So, our rate of reaction is forward reaction rate constant into concentration of C1 minus backward reaction rate constant into concentration of C2. We know C1 and C2 are related to each other, that is C1 for example plus C2 must be C1 0 plus C2 0, overall mass balance equation. Now, temperature and concentration are also related to each other. Why? Because if you look at this relationship between stirred tank reactor and so on, when we looked at mass and energy balance and its coupling, we never specified what R is. It could be first order reaction, it could be reversible reaction, irreversible reaction. We just considered a single reaction and coupled these two. So, this coupling must also be valid when we have a reversible reaction, or in other words, we have these two kind of relationship, that is T is equal to T0 1 over lambda into x. So, we have C2 related to C1, we have temperature related to C1, or in other words, we still can write this reaction rate as a function of concentration or as a function of temperature or as a function of conversion. So, let us look at what happens when we have this particular reaction. So, what we are looking at over here is for a reversible reaction, so Kf into C1 minus K backward into C2, Kf and K backward are functions of temperature, but we also know that we have K equilibrium defined from thermodynamics, which is Kf by Kb, right, which is nothing but C2 by C1. So, at equilibrium the rate of reaction is 0. So, let me rewrite for we have K equilibrium, which is C2 by C1 at equilibrium, which is Kf by Kb. We also have Kf, Kb, which are functions of temperature, and for an adiabatic operation we have lambda into x. Okay. So, suppose we now plot conversion as a function of temperature. We have, for example, our equilibrium line, right. This is what we had seen earlier. For an exothermic reaction, the equilibrium conversion decreases as temperature is increased. Okay. So, we have this particular line. Now, what happens when we do an isothermal operation? So, let us say that we are doing an isothermal operation at this particular condition. So, what we are plotting here in general is x versus t, and this is a specific case of x equilibrium. How do we get that x equilibrium? Because we know k equilibrium, which is a function of temperature, which is C2 by C1 at equilibrium, and let us say that we do not have any C2 0, C2 is nothing but C1 0 minus C1 divided by C1. So, we have a relationship between temperature and equilibrium conversion, and this is what we get. Now, what happens when you have a isothermal operation? When you have isothermal operation where temperature is constant. So, this is my isothermal operation. So, in an isothermal operation, my conversion will keep on increasing till I reach the equilibrium limit, and that is what is the maximum conversion I will get. Now, let us say that we have an adiabatic operation, okay, exothermic reaction. Now, what happens for an adiabatic operation? From this particular relationship, we see that relationship is linear, right, between conversion x and temperature T, and we also know this constant 1 over lambda. What is 1 over lambda? Is minus delta H C1 0 by rho Cp. So, if exothermic reaction delta H is negative, so minus delta H positive. So, 1 over lambda is positive, or in other words, for adiabatic reaction x versus T is a straight line with a positive slope. So, what will happen if you start the same reaction, same temperature, but in an adiabatic manner? The temperature will increase, and it will eventually we will reach equilibrium. So, this is x equilibrium for isothermal operation, this is the equilibrium limit for adiabatic operation. Now, what has happened? The maximum conversion in an adiabatic reactor will be lower than the maximum conversion in an isothermal reactor. Not a situation that we would like to be, because what it means, if the equilibrium conversion is low, that is the maximum you can get. So, the actual you will get will be much lower than that. So, adiabatic operation from thermodynamic point of view is not an favorable operation. Isothermal operation on the other hand is. But what happens to the kinetics? Thermodynamics is only one part of our whole scheme of things. So, what happens to kinetics? Now, kinetics, if you see, temperature is constant. So, in general the rate of reaction will be low. So, here the temperature is increasing if you are travelling along the adiabatic path, that means the reaction rate is now increasing. So, we will reach the equilibrium conditions much faster compared to isothermal. So, the kinetics is favorable on an adiabatic path, but the thermodynamics is not, whereas on an isothermal reactor operation kinetics is unfavorable, whereas the thermodynamics or equilibrium is favorable. So, in both these conditions, both these extremes, we are not in an happy situation either way. It is always give and take. In isothermal case, what you gain by thermodynamic way, that is the maximum conversion, you lose in a kinetic sense, whereas in an adiabatic reactor you gain on a kinetic sense, but lose on the thermodynamic sense. So, how should we operate these? How should we operate these reactors? So, clearly operating either as an isothermal reactor or as a adiabatic reactor is not an ideal scenario. We have to find a combination of these two cases. So, how do we go about doing that? But before we do that, let us look at what happens in an endothermic reaction. In an endothermic reaction, reversible, the same, Now, our equilibrium conversion increases as temperature is increased, but temperature relationship with conversion where lambda is minus delta H C10 by rho Cp. What happens to delta H? Positive endothermic reaction. So, lambda is negative. So, this is my adiabatic line, this is my isothermal line. So, what happens here? If I carry out this isothermally with this particular temperature, my equilibrium conversion will be also high and temperature is also high, whereas for an adiabatic process my equilibrium conversion is low and temperatures are also low, because what is happening, adiabatic endothermic reaction means energy will be removed from the system. So, temperatures will be lower. So, both in a kinetic sense as well as in a thermodynamic sense, adiabatic operation is not desirable, whereas isothermal operation is desirable, both from kinetic and thermodynamic sense. But to maintain isothermal conditions for an endothermic reaction, you will have to supply energy, otherwise by itself temperature will go down. So, that is the price that we may have to pay. But coming back to exothermic reactions, we saw that we have to strike a balance between adiabatic operation and isothermal operation, and we will look how this balance is achieved little later on. But let us look at how do we operate these reactors. For example, remember rate C2, that is one idea, and in an exothermic reaction what happens to the rate as we increase the temperature. So, what we are seeing here is conversion on the x axis and rate on the y axis. So, let us say that we start with temperature, some temperature T1, a low temperature. So, as we are increasing the conversion, the rate will go to 0 and this is my equilibrium conversion at temperature T1, right. As I increase my temperature, so these are my T1, T2, T3, T4, saying T4 greater than T3 greater than T2 greater than T1. So, what is happening as I am increasing my temperature, for example, T3, this is what will my equilibrium conversion will be for T3, this will be for T2 and so on. So, what happens to my equilibrium conversion? X equilibrium conversion for temperature T1 is greater than same thing for 2, 3 and so on, because my temperature, that is my characteristic of my exothermic reaction. But what is happening to the rate? The rate is higher at temperature T2 because of Arrhenius effect, same as T3, T4. So, if we now plot 1 over R versus conversion, because remember that is what determines my performance in a reactor. So, how does 1 over R at lower temperature? This will be the highest value 1 over R, because R is low, then followed by T2, followed by T3, followed by T4 and so on. So, now what will happen as the reaction is taking place? So, let us say that we are trying to operate a batch reactor. Let us consider a simple scenario of batch reactor. So, we are now trying to see what should be my temperature for a batch reactor which is handling an exothermic reversible reaction, which gives me the lowest residence time to achieve some desired conversion. We know the lowest residence time will be obtained when the rates are high, or in other words, if you look at 1 over rate, when 1 over rate is low. So, now imagine this is my batch process okay, stirred tank reactor batch process. At time t equal to 0, conversion is 0, and at time t equal to some time t, conversion is x. So, I start, so this my conversion 0, and then I am increasing the conversion. So, this is equivalent to time being 0 and time increasing. So, what happens when the conversion is low? 1 over R is lowest with the temperature T4. So, let me just plot on the side time, and what is it, what temperature gives me highest rate or lowest 1 over rate. Okay. So, at the start T equal to 0, highest temperature gives me the lowest 1 over R. That means, at the start my temperature should be T4. Okay. Suppose I keep the temperature T4 for very long time, what will happen? If you look at over here, as conversion is increasing, I am hitting the equilibrium limit. So, if I keep temperature T4 for a long time, I will reach reaction rate equal to 0, or this line will now go like this. That means, I have lost now on equilibrium conversion if I keep temperature T4 for a long time. So, suppose it crosses over here, what should I now do? I see now that temperature T3 is what is giving me the lowest rate, or in other words, I should decrease my temperature to T3. But that again I cannot keep forever, because at some point this line also crosses. So, after this point I see my T2 temperature gives me lower 1 over R. That means, I should reduce my temperature to T2, further reduce it to T1 and so on. So, what should I, how should I operate my batch reactor for reversible exothermic reaction? If I am trying to do it in a non isothermal manner, keep high temperature initially, then lower the temperature, further lower the temperature. So, that what is the idea now? Initially we are nowhere near equilibrium. So, high temperature gives advantage of kinetics, and we are still not restricted by thermodynamics. But if you keep this temperature high for a long time, your equilibrium value, equilibrium conditions will be achieved, and equilibrium conversion at high temperature is low. So, you shift to a lower temperature T3 and keep doing this, so that you get best of both kinetics as well as thermodynamics. This is, suppose I were to do it in a stepwise manner, but I can now extend this, saying that for an exothermic reaction in a batch reactor, my temperature should increase or rather decrease from a high value to a low value as reaction proceeds. The counterpart of this in a plug flow reactor is my temperature should decrease along the length of the reactor. How do we do that? We will try to see in subsequent classes. So, we will stop here for the day.